Welcome everybody, this is Christian from Sterling Knight Gamers, and today I'm going to do a very quick, spoiler-free review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. When I first saw it, I had definitely mixed emotions on it. There was aspects that I liked, and certain aspects I really didn't like. I actually saw it with Josh, who I've done numerous recordings with, and I'm sure we'll have a much longer, in-depth discussion at some future date. I saw it a second time, which actually did help a lot. I would still say see it. To be perfectly honest, the more casual of a Star Wars fan you are, you may actually enjoy it even more. I think nerds like myself who spent the last 2 years speculating on all the different aspects that were hinted at The Force Awakens, I think would end up being more disappointed than those who just are casual fans of the franchise. There's fun aspects of the movie. It has some great scenes, good characters, pretty decent flow. There's one section, one planet that everyone seems to agree that breaks the narrative flow, but for the most part, it's a pretty decent movie. It's this when you view it in the context of the larger aspects and the canon and the lore and all that kind of stuff. So that's the end of my spoiler-free review. It's good. When I saw it the first time, I'm not leaving feeling nearly as good as I did when I saw The Force Awakens or Rogue One. So that's it, my spoiler-free review. I would say see it a second time, and I enjoyed it much more the second time. There's going to be a much longer discussion with Josh and I, but here's some of the spoiler highlights that I'll go over in this video. I don't like the whole aspect that the New Republic is essentially non-existent just because the capital system blew up. It's kind of absurd. This is a galactic government that has thousands of planets, numerous core member worlds that are influential and important and would have small fleets of their own. You know, the fact that Corellia or Mon Calamari or Naboo or Kashyyyk or any of these other planets wouldn't also want to step up and fight against a new empire, especially Kashyyyk and like other alien planets that were brutally victimized and subjugated by the empire, that they would just be like, oh well, they blew up the capital, that's the end of it. It's ridiculous. And maybe if Starkiller Base was still out there and there was a fear that just any planet that resists could be destroyed, but that's not the case. It was destroyed, and I would imagine that would be made public. Even if the Republic mostly demilitarized, I would imagine there would still be something, some aspect of some level of resistance that would be done. And it's, in a lot of ways, it just cheapens the aspect of the fact that there was this gigantic galactic civil war. No one's willing to preserve that a little bit. They're okay with just being taken over by a new form of the Empire. So that was something that was overall frustrating. As well as, I kind of think they killed the wrong Skywalker. The fact that they had already shot a death scene, and this is only because Carrie Fisher had died, and you know, as tragic that is, they should have just edited the movie differently, so when she gets blown off into space, she actually died. And whether or not Kylo intended to kill her or let his wingmen do it, that would be for the directors and Kathleen Kennedy to decide, depending on what's going to happen in Episode 9 and whether or not he's going to be redeemed or not. But they should have just re-edited it when she died, and then still have Luke doing the Force projection thing and him just continuing to live. That's one of the other big issues. Another one, which a lot of people in the community is like pointing out, this whole hyperspace ramming thing that happens at the end, and how they disable, it's not necessarily destroyed because they still do a landing party, but hyperspace travel has been around for thousands of years in the Star Wars galaxy. You would imagine if that tactic was so useful, it would have been used in every conflict we've ever seen. Why even bother having a rebel alliance if you could just have a few ships sacrifice themselves and just destroy ships way larger. If that was a valid naval space warfare tactic, there would essentially be no ships that were beyond a certain size, because you always would be risk losing them just because of a hyperspace action. I guess one way they could explain it is the fact that it takes a while for a hyperjay to spool up, and if you expect that maneuver to happen, then you can just easily shift out of the way. And they were purposely ignoring the fact that it was preparing for hyperspace up until the last minute, because they wanted to destroy more of the shuttles. Another aspect that really frustrated me was so much of the mystery that was set up in the Force Awakens is just completely dropped. Between the Knights of Ren not being shown again, the fact that they were referenced before, they were shown in the vision, and yet it seems to be completely incoincidental. It just doesn't make any sense. The fact that of who Rey's parentage is just alluded to and seems to be important, because otherwise why doesn't she just have a last name? Everyone has the last name. Even if you're not an important figure, why not just give her a random last name? Why just be Rey if you're not setting up something larger? And then of course, who's Snoke? Where did he come from? How did he rise to power? Where was he during the Galactic Civil War? Was he around during some aspects of the Old Republic? How old is he? How is he staying alive? Is he a Sith? All those, it doesn't matter. He's dead. All that stuff that we've been wondering since even the first trailer came out for The Force Awakens is all pointless. It was just a mechanism for Ben Solo to fall to the dark side. Doesn't make any sense. And the last quick point that I'll make here, because I can tell this is going to be turning into a larger video, Luke Skywalker, the man that saw good in his father, who's arguably one of the most evil people in the galaxy at the time, he still saw good in him, and he was willing to risk his own life, really be on a suicide mission, because he thought the Death Star was going to be destroyed, and yet he was still turning himself in to confront his father. Still saw some good in him, even after all that Vader had done, and wanted to return him to the light. His nephew, who, as we know, hadn't done anything evil yet or killed anyone yet, just because he was sensing what could happen, even contemplated for a moment murdering his own nephew. That doesn't make any sense. Yes, it was an immediate shame and all that kind of stuff, but it just completely changes what Luke's character was. That was one thing that was so core to his arc in the original trilogy, is that even when Yoda and Obi-Wan wanted him to confront and defeat Vader, he thought that he could redeem his father through putting himself at risk, through showing that he had ultimate faith in his father. And I don't understand how that person could have a positive experience with turning Vader and then just even for a second give up on his nephew. Just take away his lightsaber and put him in a jail cell or something. The fact that he was just thinking about just killing him right there, like, what would he have said to Leia? Yeah, I was training your son. He probably was going to be a really big dick, so I decided to kill him. Do you really think that sounds like the relationship him and Leia have had? That he would just make that decision without talking to her first? There's that, and there's other things, but that said, the second viewing really made it so much more enjoyable. Some of the stuff that was going to annoy me, I just accept it as it is. But unfortunately, this movie really decreases my enthusiasm for canon and following everything along. Like, I'm still going to read the novelization of this movie when it comes out, because I want to try to see if there's some of these plot holes are filled in through the text. But I'm less excited about the next set of books, the next movies. And one last thing is, they were setting up so much with the balance of the Force, and that the Jedi need to end, and that they had serious problems. One of those problems is that you to limit yourself to just the light side. And they're really setting up, especially with Star Wars Rebels, this idea of balance, of not giving into the dark side, but still utilizing aspects, or recognizing in your own nature that you could have these aggressions. But for this, they seem to just completely drop it, and it's the binary light versus the dark again, good versus evil. And it would have been so much more interesting if they had set up that Rey was the beginning of a new Jedi Order, a new Gray Jedi Order, or just a new philosophy to it. Maybe they could still do that in 9. One thing that's annoying about this is the fact that as the directors change, I feel like this director is just like, I don't care about Snoke, don't care about the Knights of Ren, don't care who Rey is, just want to make my own movie. And then the next, with Abrams coming back, maybe he's like, no, she really was a Kenobi. Her parents were dipshits, but her grandfather was a Kenobi. Or the backstory of Snoke, I'm sure is going to be in a book later on, but I'm not even sure if I'll read it. And maybe I'll just watch a review of some other nerd out there, and like I'll find out the canon that way. But that's all for now. I'm going to try to limit myself to a short video. There'll be a much longer discussion about this later. So that's all, and may the Force be with you. Bye.